Next segment, key stakeholders in marketing, understanding the players in the role, section 4. In this section of the course, we're going to talk about key stakeholders in marketing and understanding players and roles. The two things that we're going to take away in this quick segment are who are the stakeholders in your community and how should you engage them. The first thing to do when identifying stakeholders in your community are understanding what that base looks like. Now, for some, that base may look like city government, elected officials. It may look like private sector leadership. It may look like city champions. What does that mix of people in your community look like, and how are they linked together? For others of you, you may have different stakeholders. Your city governments may be broken out like this if you're a large region, and you might have 5, 6, 7 players all involved. You may have multiple large employers who have a vested interest in the region, and you may have a lot of community champions in your region. Now, one of the things that we didn't necessarily talk about that always arise in some communities are the people that aren't champions of your community, that don't necessarily want investment and attraction for your community, but they're still a stakeholder as well. So the first thing that you need to do if marketing to them is understand who they are, understand what they need. In a previous course, we used persona building as a way to understand what they need. For this particular audience, one of the things that you can do is set up a survey to try to understand electronically how they make decisions, some of the things that they need, where their opportunities are, where some pain points are. You may already understand this, but reiterating that with some kind of forum, a focus group, or a survey will increase buy-in in your community and give you a better understanding of who they are and what they need. Now, once you understand who they are and what they need, the next step is to understand how to communicate to them. Now, these stakeholders are from all walks of life. They consume information differently. As we mentioned in a previous section, having a focus group with a stakeholder community is going to be really important to gain buy-in. And you usually do this around vision. If the vision is already there, then it'll be easier to engage with your stakeholder base. If your vision isn't there, then you can use this stakeholder base to help build and support a vision for your community. And as we mentioned earlier, understanding the role of these different stakeholders in your community is going to help you engage with them. So for example, city government needs help understanding what economic development is and attracting companies that will create primary employment. That's one of the things that city governments need. How can you, as an organization or a community, leverage this particular stakeholder and this particular need to support your vision and support your investment promotion efforts? A private sector company needs help solving workforce challenges, among others, reducing costs, reducing risk. Those are some of the needs that they have. And a community champion, somebody that lives in the community, wants to see jobs for their children, for their relatives. They want to see that community grow in a healthy and sustainable way. So all three of these players have different needs. The next step is, once you understand their needs, it's really engaging with them to understand what the outcomes are. You've already built a strategy, so communicating your strategy to this stakeholder group is going to be really important. By now, you may have already built a brand, so communicating your brand to the stakeholder group will also be important. But understanding where they are, what they need, depending on the process that you're in, is going to be critical to this project. So in this brief segment, we learned how to identify who the stakeholders are in your community. And when we say stakeholders, we really mean who are the movers and shakers of your community? Who are the people that are going to influence? Who are the people that are going to support? Who are the people that are going to lift up the organization? Who are the people that are going to lift up the marketing strategy and carry that torch? And also, who are the people that are going to detract? So oftentimes we tend to look at all the positives of stakeholders, but in many communities there are detractors. And one of the things that we always teach is that you can't be all things to all people, and this has to focus on the greater good of the community. So understanding who those stakeholders are is really, really important. The people that are going to affect or influence decisions in your community. Some of those stakeholders might be university assets. We didn't necessarily talk about that in the previous section, but university assets are tremendous stakeholders in a community. It could be community colleges, it could be technical institutes, it could be organizations that support workforce initiatives. All of these are stakeholders to the success of your program. The second thing we learned is how to engage them. You can engage stakeholders using surveys, focus groups, quarterly meetings, conference calls. You can engage the stakeholder group in a variety of ways. But here's the tip that will tell you on what to use when talking to them. The first thing to use when talking to them is an agenda. Always have an agenda. What are you going to say to this stakeholder group? And what's the objective? The second is, are you following the strategy? If you're meeting just to meet, it's not going to be as productive. Stakeholders have limited time in when, how, and which business they go about doing. So having it connected to your strategy is also really critical to the program. And then lastly, follow-up. Stakeholders want to see what's happening. They want to know that the contribution that they made to your program, to your focus group, made a difference. So staying connected with that stakeholder group is critical to this project.